Hello, I'm Judith Green from Somerset Libraries. Welcome back to episode 5 of Food for Thought, which is our series of videos which links baking and reading. I'm going to look today at a recipe for American cupcakes, which is a fruit cupcake recipe. It's ideally suited perhaps to some of the younger members of your household. There's no complicated creaming or beating methods. You just stir the two batters of ingredients together and bake them in paper cases, so you don't have any difficulties of getting it out of the cake tin either. The only thing is, if the fruit you need to use needs chopping, then for very young ones you might want to do the cutting up for them and also help with the weighing out. So to launch off then, this is American fruit muffins. You need to turn your oven on now to 190 centigrade. And the ingredients that you're going to need start off with fruit, because it's fruit muffins, obviously. Now, I've been out in the garden and the gooseberries are coming on nicely, but they're a bit small yet, so I thought I'd thin them out to make the ones that stay on get bigger. So I've picked some thinnings and I've topped and tailed and washed and dried them, and they're ready to go now. What you need is 175 grams of fruit, little gooseberries like this. My recipe actually recommends a peeled and cored cooking apple chopped up finely for the same weight. If you like things a little sweeter, you can use blueberries. Or if you've got a bit of a tired apple or two in the fruit bowl and nobody quite fancies it, you can peel that and use that instead. So the rest of the ingredients after the 175 grams of fruit are 75 grams of sugar, 1 large beaten egg, 150 ml of milk, and 75 ml of sunflower oil, and we're going to mix those together. And then you're going to weigh out 9 ounces of plain flour, 4.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Stir those together to make sure they're mixed before you put them in with liquid and put it all together. So if we make a start with that, we're going to do the egg first because it needs to be beaten. So that's going straight into my bowl here. There we are. And give that a beat. Just with a fork's fine. You don't need to use a whisk or an electric mixer, it's just to get it mixed in. And to that I'm going to add the fruit. And I'm going to weigh 75 grams of sugar. Sorry. So that's 75 grams of sugar. Yeah. 150 ml of milk, which I've already measured out. And 75 ml of sunflower oil. You can use rapeseed oil or corn oil if that's what you've got. That's fine. 75 ml. That's going in as well. That looks quite a mess, really. I'm just going to give that a bit of a stir around, get the sugar involved with the oil. Use the fork is fine. That's good. Now I'm going to weigh out the flour to start off with and then stir in the baking powder. So for the flour, it's 250 grams of flour. That's plain flour. You're going to add the baking powder separately. And 4.5 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 2, 3, 4 and a half. And now stir the baking powder in to make sure it's well mixed with the flour before you take it any further with the wet ingredients. You can sift it with a sieve if you want, but stirring it through with a spoon is quite sufficient. A bit less washing up as well. Okay, now before we mix the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients together, I'm going to put the cake cases ready. You'll need a 12-hole bun tin and some paper cake cases. If you use slightly larger ones, you may need slightly less, and equally if you use smaller ones, you might need a few more. If you set at 12 and have some cases spare, just in case you've got slightly more mixture than that. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'll just leave those spare on the side. Now we're going to mix the flour in with the oil and milk and fruit. The mixing's a very light affair. It doesn't matter if it's a slightly rough mixture, it's best to be slightly undermixed and slightly overmixed. If you mix it for too long, they'll come out very chewy, quite edible, but much nicer if you mix it lightly. So you use a figure of 8 movement with a metal spoon for this. So just make a start and keep turning it over and over in a sort of figure of 8, down and up, and around. Scrape round the edge to make sure the flour's fallen into the mixture, and scrape round the bottom to make sure that the dry bits on the bottom are caught into the mixture too. Just going to scrape off the spoon because I think there's a bit of flour caught on there too. So we're almost there. You see it's a little bit lumpy still, but I'm just going to give it a little bit more to get that liquid in. Yeah, that's good enough. It's a little bit lumpy, but we'll manage with that. That's fine. So off to the cake cases. Don't overfill the cake cases, otherwise they'll overflow and stick together, which won't be so great. And equally don't underfill them either. So if you use a dessert spoon, it's easier to judge. If you use a very large spoon, you may overfill them accidentally. And that's about right. Take a little bit out of that one, it's a little bit too full. It's probably better to be slightly underfilled than overfilled. fiddly judging them. There is scope for getting sticky at this stage. So those are just about right. I'm just going to carry on filling up the others now, and then I'll be back to you. Now, while we're waiting for those to cook, which won't be very long, I thought if you have younger people doing them, they might be interested in a different type of reading for a change. If you go onto our librarieswest.org site and download the RB Digital app, that one up there, which I've already downloaded onto the phone. If you search, you will find there's a section called comics, and there's about 1,500 comics which you can borrow for 30 days. There's no limit on how many you can take out. You can choose which range you take. There are things like Frozen, My Little Pony, Transformers, manga, Spider-Man, and there's also non-fiction ones as well for adults. So have a look through there. I'm sure you'll find something you'll enjoy. For instance, there's the detail on the Frozen one. Okay, so you just press the checkout button there and it'll download onto your device. So we'll go and have a look at those cakes in a little while. Right, here we are back again. These have taken a little bit longer than I expected, probably because the gooseberries are a bit bigger than I would chop the apple normally, so it slowed down the cooking. So always use the cooking time as a guideline rather than an exact figure. So I'm just going to get them out of the oven now. Here we are, so they're nice golden brown. The tin's very hot, they need to come out of it to cool, so it might be worth using a knife gently just to help you lift out muffins from the tin, otherwise you might burn your fingers. You can try. Oh, those are quite hot. So just gently use the knife to flick them out. Okay, these are delicious warm, but you'll burn yourself if you eat them straight out of the oven, so have a bit of patience, let them cool down slightly, especially the fruit can be extremely hot. I'll just mention in passing, these are lovely for breakfast with a cup of coffee. If you mix the flour and baking powder the night before and get out all the dry ingredients and the oil, it takes very little time to put them together in the morning. If you can persuade someone to get up a little bit early and get on with that, and then you'll all have a nice treat for breakfast. So we'll let those cool a bit and then we'll see how they come out. Well, these are cooled for about a quarter of an hour now. They're still quite warm, which is really nice to eat. Just go carefully in case the fruit's very hot. So we'll give one a try now and see how it's come on. Nice and golden, crisp on top. Peel off the cake case. If we break it open, let's see what the inside looks like. Yes, that looks nice. Lots of nice holes in it. And you see the gooseberries have cooked through nicely. So I'm just going to eat a bit very carefully to make sure I don't burn my mouth. That's lovely. The sharpness of the gooseberries is delicious with the slight sweetness of the cake. So I can definitely recommend that to you. Delicious for breakfast with coffee. For our next recipe, I'm thinking about doing scones, which are very straightforward really, and there's so much scope for them to go wrong. I don't know why. Simple things are often more complicated, so we might have a look at that in the next episode. Or if there's something you'd like me to have a look at, then do please post something on the Somerset Libraries Wells Facebook page. Let us know if you've enjoyed this, and if you have a go at making these, do post your photos and comments on there as well. We'd love to hear how you get on. Thank you.